Hi everyone, it's Nicole Spohr and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be creating some underwater scene cards with brand new Hero Arts May 2021 My Monthly Hero add-ons. I have got 3 cards to share today. We're going to start out with this Slimline style card. We're going to be using the brand new Alignment Tool Slimline Stencil. I love this. It is a slimline style with 3 windows. You definitely wouldn't have to use all 3 if you don't want to. One of my favorite features of this stencil is that it has the lines around the shape of the card base. So it makes it very easy to line up with your card base background. I am going to use all 3 windows, but like I mentioned a minute ago, you can definitely mask off some of that if you don't want to do all the windows, or maybe you just want to do 1 or 2. I'm going to use some Pool Party Hero Hues Reactive ink and a blending brush to blend this color into each of the windows, concentrating darker ink down towards the bottom and kind of lightening it up towards the top. And then I'm just going to work to get a really nice blend. What we're going to be doing for this card is creating a layered stencil background. One of my favorite things to do with a masking stencil like this is to then use a stencil on top, which gives each of these stenciled areas, in this case stenciled squares, not rectangles, squares, a patterned background. This is going to be the base for our scene. We're going to finish this last one really quickly. You could also ink blend a couple of colors in each of these squares, or do each in a different color if you wanted to. The possibilities are really endless here. I have not seen a slimline stencil like this, so to me this was like a brand new, unique kind of slimline style stencil, and I was very excited to see this from Hero Arts. Next we have another slimline stencil from this My Monthly Hero release, and we're going to layer it over the top without removing that first stencil, because we want to then be able to layer the pattern. This is the Water Flow Slimline stencil, and I love that you can use it on its own, or you can use it like I'm doing here. You could use multiple colors, maybe even create a rainbow pattern or multiple shades of blues and greens for the water. I did ink this up with some Hero Hues Blue Raspberry Reactive ink. When I remove the stencils, we're left with this beautiful background. I absolutely love it, as it doesn't have tons and tons of layers, yet it looks like it does. Next, we are going to be taking a sentiment from this new color layering Abalone, I think that's how you say it, I'm probably saying it wrong, stamp set. And we are going to stamp a sentiment from this right on our card base. We are going to be using this sentiment here. Sorry, I'm getting that lined up really quickly. Want to make sure it's as even as possible. I'm going to be stamping it between 2 of the squares with a little bit of black ink. I fiddled with this forever. I don't know why. I couldn't get it lined up just the way I wanted. We're stamping "You're So Special to Me." So cute little punny sentiment. We're also going to grab some seaweed from that same stamp set and ink it up with the Hero Hues Key Lime Fizz and Green Apple Reactive inks. We're going to do this 3 times, kind of doing a rock and roll technique where we ink up the image with the Key Lime Fizz first. I generally stamped it the first time with Key Lime Fizz. You could do it both ways. I'm going to do it both ways on camera here. Then I added a little bit of the green apple and stamped it on top. I would stamp over it with the key lime fizz if I felt like the darker green was too harsh. It just depends, but I wanted it to be two-tone seaweed, and this was a quick and easy way to achieve that. Then we're going to take the coordinating die for this and die cut this image 3 times. We're going to have one of these for each of the squares on our card. I'm using quite a few of the add-ons today for my 3 cards, mixing and matching small little elements from each. Let's grab the die. And then we are going to die cut those 3 very quickly. While I am die cutting the seaweed, I am also going to be die cutting some additional images for scene building. These are going to come from 2 main sets. The Hero Arts Seashells Fancy Dies, which are going to be all the shells, the starfish, the sand dollar. I'm inking up the edges of the sand dollar with pumice stone distress ink. I have die cut all of my images from Nina 110-pound weight cardstock. The other images, the mermaid tail and fish, are coming from the Hero Lifestyle Mermaid die set. So 2 different die sets, and then the stamp and die set are going to be used for the scene building. We're going to take some little mini ink blending tools. I found these worked really well for smaller images. And I am using all Hero Arts reactive inks to ink up all of these. So for the starfish, we have a little lemon drop and creamsicle, or the creamsicle orange. We're going to mix those together. I got a little too much orange there, so I'm just going to go back over with my yellow and blend out a little bit. The colorful inks are all coming from Hero Arts, and then you can see I've got my tin of Neutrals Distress inks there ready for some of the shells, and then that sand dollar that I've already inked up the edges. We're going to add some yellow ink to the fish. I am going to ink up an extra fish while I am here, or maybe I waited and did this one later. I bet I did the other one later. Never mind. Pretend I did not say that. I die cut a lot of these fish. The fish was probably my most, not even probably, it was my most used product from this release because I just think the size is perfect. So I went ahead and inked up the rest of those. I am so sorry that most of it was off camera. I have listed the ink colors I used on my blog post, so you can see that there, and I've also linked the inks down below. You can see the mermaid tail is rainbow. The shells were a combination of antique linen and gathered twigs distress inks, but again, I will link or list out all of those on the coordinating blog post for you. My video camera was full and I didn't know it. I didn't hear the beep. And so I am so sorry I missed that on camera because this was even a remake of the original card. I had done all the cards. I was away from home for the weekend and I didn't have filming equipment. And I recreated all of them Sunday afternoon and my video camera went out and I really didn't want to do it a 3rd time. So I hope you guys will forgive that. Part of that was cut out. I added some little clear droplets coming from the fish, a black eye on each of the fish with a jelly roll pen, and then I am adorning the mermaid tail with some Nuvo crystal drops in White Blizzard. My original card, I actually didn't have my Nuvo drops with me. I used glossy accents with a real fine glitter. So there's lots of options. I got pretty much the exact same look by doing that for the original card, but I really just wanted my mermaid tail to have some sparkle to it. Finally, we are going to take our card base here that we've created and attach it to a white Slimline card base, a Slimline card base measuring 3.5 by 8.5 inches. All of these little finishing details really make this card so special. And here is a look at how the little scenes in each of those sections look. I like how it flows seamlessly from one frame to another. Next up, we're going to be creating a little shaker card, again with lots of fish. Now, this was also part of the project that I missed filming because my camera was full. I inked up a panel with a couple of shades of blue ink. I used the Splash and Blue Hawaii, and then I took the brand new Happiness Waves bold print and inked it up with the same two colors of ink over the background. I absolutely adore this bold print's background stamp. It is so good and can be used in so many different ways. A really unique take on creating waves. After I've inked it up and stamped that text over it, I'm going to take some Picket Fence Distress paint and add a little water to thin it, and then I'm going to splatter my background with paint all over to give it a little bit more of a watery look. You could also spritz this with water. The reactive inks will react with the water for some nice little faded areas. And then I'm going to set this aside to completely air dry while I work on inking up the rest of the images for my card and also die cutting the frame and all of that good stuff. If your paint doesn't flick off really easily, just add a little bit more water. I try not to add too much water to start with because it gets a little too translucent and I want it to be a bit more opaque. So that's why I add water gradually to get the consistency that works for splattering on my background. We're going to clean up our background. I'm gonna go run and wash off my paintbrush, and then again I have all of these images from the Hero Lifestyle Mermaid die collection that I'm going to ink up with my reactive inks. We have our like Trident I'm inking up with Lemon Drop and Creamsicle. We also have some Lemon Drop and Creamsicle fish. I am doing two kind of yellow fish. One is going to be more yellow and orange because it's going to be used on our final card. I actually needed one more fish and I just went ahead and did it now. And remember, these are all duplicates of cards I created when I didn't have my video camera, so I knew straight off what I needed. This doesn't happen a lot where I know, oh, I'm going to need another one of those. But in this case, because I was recreating 3 cards I already made, I just went ahead and die cut a bunch of things all at once. We're going to do a little fruit punch. Now, all of these fish for this card are going to end up to be one color. So we have Taffy, Fruit Punch, Creamsicle, Lemon Drop, Key Lime Fizz, and Pool Party fish for this card. Then the mermaid tail is going to be a combination of blues, pinks, and purples. And that is going to be Taffy, Berry Smoothie, I believe Blue Raspberry, and Grape Slush. And we're going to do that here in a minute. So this rainbow tail is, or not rainbow tail, this mermaid tail is not rainbow like the first card. Oh, and I also have this little clam shell. That's going to be some taffy and grape slush. I am going to use these little mini ink blenders to really blend the colors together seamlessly. I'm loving creating all of these really fun mermaid tails. This is the only place I used berry smoothie on my cards today, but I really liked it for this particular image. Now we are going to die cut a frame for this card and create a shaker. You could also just create a frame and not make it a shaker if you wanted to, using the swirling tide border. I've die cut mine from white cardstock. I'm going to leave it white, and I'm backing it with 1/8 inch score tape all the way around the edges. And then I went ahead and took the rectangle die, the A2 sized die from this set, and die cut a piece of Hero Arts acetate from it that we're going to then back this frame with. One of my favorite things to do is to create a window, whether it's for just a regular card or in this case a shaker card, with the acetate, and then stamp a sentiment on the acetate with white StazOn ink. The white StazOn just looks so good in this case, and I think it's much more showy stamped on the acetate as opposed to the card base itself, especially with this card background being a text background. I don't think it shows up great. My little hack for this is pulling up the score tape only halfway and kind of folding it back on itself, and then lining up the next layer, in this case the acetate, and then pulling those edges out. Let's go ahead and put our panel in our MISTI and stamp it with a sentiment from the CU stamp set. This says "Nice to see you." And then we're going to be tucking the trident, mermaid tail, and little clamshell on the front of the panel. So these are not actually inside the shaker. Instead, they are tucked here on the front of the shaker. Once I have them where I want them to go, I'm going to take a little adhesive and glue these down in place. The fish then are all going to be inside of the shaker. I'm using my frame as a guide so that they don't get completely covered up by those swirling waves. And then we're going to just kind of do rainbow order here in the background, attaching each of these. I'm using some tweezers and a liquid adhesive to do this very quickly and easily. You can really see how that white splatter over our beautiful background adds to that underwater theme of our card. Now, the images here may differ a little bit from the images of the finished card, and that I can't remember which one I photographed because I did two of them and I just kind of switched the placement just a tiny bit. It's probably not super noticeable. Then we're going to back the whole back of this panel with double-sided adhesive, foam adhesive, pardon me. I'm only doing one layer as we're going to fill our shaker with some chunky glitter from Simon Says Stamp. I wanted to do a really simple shaker, and a glitter is going to be nice and flat, especially since I'm not doing 2 layers of foam adhesive. I really don't prefer to do a really thick shaker anymore, just because it's so hard to mail the cards and get them in that standard A2 sized envelope. Before I assemble the shaker though, I do need to add a black eye to each of the fish. I'm going to fill my shaker well with that chunky glitter. I did a pretty healthy dose of it. We're going to pull off all of our backing paper, and then we're going to just take our background panel and press it in place right over this to finish our card. I'm going to let that sit for a second and start on the next card. We've already inked up our fish, so I am going to be using the alignment tool. This is for the A2 and A6 size cards. I'm going to be using it a little bit differently. Originally, I was going to leave this panel A2 sized, and it works fantastic if you want to line up any of these new little windows. There's the lighthouse set, and then there is this set that has more of an underwater vibe to it, which is what I used today. And we're going to use the little window that has like the seaweed in a couple of the corners and bubbles around it. It helps you line up where that window is going to go very easily. So this is definitely a different way to use the stencil. I'm going to line it up. I have a little piece of repositionable tape. I'm going to tape my Looking Glass Underwater Reef die in place and run it through my die cutting machine. I'm going to remove that then, and I'm left with this adorable little window. You could do something similar with the Slimline style stencil and do a different window if you wanted to in each of those sections. I think that would be super, super cute. Maybe even do those as shakers. You could do this one as a shaker window. The possibilities are endless. Underneath this window, I'm stamping "This little fish brings you a big birthday wish" from the Sea Life mini stamp set. And I picked this sentiment specifically because we're putting one little fish in that window, and I think it just coordinates so well. Now, something I forgot to do on this card before I start assembling it is placing or coloring, pardon me, the seaweed, but I'm going to show you a little hack for that in a minute. Now, I decided not to do this on camera because I had a whole extra panel piece and I didn't want to waste another sheet of paper. So what I did was took an A2 sized piece of paper and placed it in my MISTI with the brand new Inverse Bubbles bold print background. I stamped it with the Pool Party reactive ink. I cut it in half and I used half of it on the first card, and we're going to use the other half on our second card. That panel we're going to place right behind our window, and then you can see the great little bubble background peeking through the window and all those bubbles. We're going to glue our little fish in place. Cute little yellow fish. She shows up so great against that pool party background. I'm going to take a little post-it note and just kind of mask off the background in case I get messy. It also allows me to be messier with my Copic markers. We're going to use a couple shades of green markers to just color in those little seaweed areas very, very lightly. I like that little pop of green. Let's go ahead and do the other one really quick. Again, we're just using a couple of green markers. You can use anything here. You could even just ink it up with your little blending tool and some green ink if you wanted to. There are a lot of different ways to add a little color. I think I need a little bit more dark green, and we want to make sure and blend that out good. And so cute. We want to make sure and add a black dot with a jelly roll pen for the eye. And then I am going to trim this down. Oh, I forgot. I'm going to add some little white scales to the fish. I dressed this fish up just a little bit more than I did the others. I really think it adds, especially because this is probably the simplest card of the three. And so little details like this make all the difference in the world. Now, it's cute as is, but I went ahead and trimmed a 1/2 inch from each long side, and I'm going to mat it on a piece of Adriatic Hero Arts cardstock. And then we're going to place this whole thing on a white top fold card base. I'm going to use my scoring tool to make sure there's a nice crease here. The final thing we're going to do is add some embellishment to the bubbles around the frame. On the original card, I used glossy accents. So I simply filled each of those little bubbles with glossy accents. I didn't love it. It's cute, but I think they flattened too much. I actually went back over them with the Hero Arts crystal lacquer, and I love the bubbles so much more. But it's also cute if you want to take some clear bubble droplets and just fill in those bigger bubbles. So I'm showing you that option here, but you can also do a glossy accents. I would probably do 2 coats, like put 1 layer on and let it dry all the way, and then maybe do another. You could probably use Nouveau Crystal drops, or like I said, the crystal lacquer I like the best. We will finish adding our little droplets here, and that is going to be it for my 3 cards using add-ons from the Hero Arts May 2021 My Monthly Hero release. This is a super fun release this month, you guys. I hope you love it as much as I do. I think it's perfect for the upcoming summer months, and just has all of these great little images and fun products to use. Here is a peek at all 3 finished cards. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here is another video featuring Hero Arts My Monthly Hero products that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell to never miss a new card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.